Hey there, back at you today with some more RTD news updates. And as you can tell from my background here, we're going to be talking about the Venezuelan bolivar. And for those that may not be familiar with what's happening in Venezuela, over the past several years now, their monetary policy and fiscal policy, borderline their economy, has been collapsing. And so there's been a lot of news that hasn't really been mainstream based upon the fact that they are basically starving down there. And so if you were to Google search Venezuela crisis, you would have get a better idea of what's actually going on down there. But as I mentioned, mainstream media doesn't really cover it. And so if you followed RTD before, I've covered it, quite well over the last couple of months and actually over a year now. And the situation there has gotten worse to the point where their currency now, the note you see above my shoulder, the Venezuela Bolivar 100 Bolivar note, was actually, as of December of this past year, was borderline expired. Overnight, within a couple of days or so, the president there, Maduro, gave the citizens a heads up that the currency would no longer be used and that they will begin, removing them from circulation. So since that decision was made on behalf of their government there, the people have been trying to get rid of those notes as fast as they can. But the problem is they're only worth about 3 cents. So nobody really wants them. So even exchanging them to their bank accounts to get the new notes now, they're having problems. And so today I got a couple articles here. I actually got about 5 articles I want to cover. And just as always, skim through the top and then let you read more if you're interested, so you can find the links below. And so just to start off with our first article here, it has to do with hyperinflation renders Venezuelan a nation of broke millionaires. So as I mentioned, being that they have a lot of paper now, a lot of people are rich, but they're not really rich anymore. So next article here is from Forbes, and it is entitled "The Case for Currency Substitution in Venezuela." The next article is from Time, and it is entitled "Crisis Hit Venezuela Introduces 3 New Banknotes in Response to Hyperinflation." Next article, Latin America Economies and Currencies to Watch in 2017, of which they list more than the Venezuelan Bolivar. And then the last article here is from BBC News, and it is actually released today. And it's Paraguay police seize tons of Venezuelan currency, and it shows a picture here of just bags upon bags of fiat currency. So let's get into this first article here. And as always, I'll just skim through as fast as I can just to give you an idea of what's going on that's not mainstream but should be. And then wrap it up with my conclusion and my thoughts at the very end. So stick all the way through. So here it has hyperinflation renders Venezuela a nation of broke millionaires. And this was actually released a couple weeks ago, but yet I thought it was a great article that was worth, definitely informing you guys about, for those that may not be familiar with it. So just to give you an idea what's going on, it says Venezuela may now be the country in the world with the most millionaires. There is, however, a caveat. The money isn't worth much anywhere else in the world. Amid rampant inflation, widespread shortages of everything from toilet paper to medicine, and a failing economy, the Venezuelan government recently introduced 3 new banknotes into the market, ranging from 500 to 2,000 bolivars. So basically, the 100 bolivars note you see above my shoulder has expired, as I mentioned, and has been with recalled or withdrawn, and they've issued higher notes now. So instead of 100 now, the next one is 500, then it's 1,000, and then it's 2,000, and then it could be 5,000, and then 10,000, all to kind of cover up and paper over, as I like to say, their hyperinflation there, which is basically saying the currency isn't worth anything. So the prices or the nominal digits on goods and services are going through the roof. And so here it says, but while somebody in Caracas can now carry 1 million bolivars in his billfold, in terms of U.S. currency notes, those 50 banknotes are only worth about $300. So you can have 1 million bolivars. So was it 100,000 of these 100 bolivars, if my math is correct, and only have about $300 worth of stuff of ability to exchange it for U.S. dollars. So basically, I don't know about you, but I myself wouldn't really want to exchange 1 million bolivars for $300, but that's just me. It says on the country's black market, and one bill is valued at less than $6. And so that's their newest note. I think it's the highest denomination, which I think is about 10,000 or 5,000, whatever. It's only worth $8, $9, $10 itself, but it says 10, 5,000 bolivars. So just to show you how distorted the numbers are with that, it's unbelievable. It says that won't get you very far. Chris Sambatini, a professor at Columbia's University School of International and Public Affairs, told Fox News, it's like the government has almost given up. They are just adding zeros to the end of these bills, and they don't mean anything. So I'm sure if you scroll down more, you'll see more detailed information if you're interested in finding out more. But as always, I want to keep it short and move on to the next one. Here's from Forbes. It says, The Case for Currency Substitution in Venezuela by William J. Luther and Carmelo Montenegro. It says, Venezuela's looped off 3 zeros when it replaced its old currency in January 2008. So this isn't the first time this happened. In 2008, they chopped off a couple of those zeros, which got it down to 100 and a 50 and a 20 and a 10 and a 5 and a 1, I believe. It says the arrival of new banknotes on December 18th of this past year shows the government is committed to putting those zeros back on. The newest denomination, 500 bolivars, will soon be joined by 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, and 20,000 bolivar notes. Higher denominations are supposed to help Venezuelans deal with high rising prices, but it isn't new notes that hard-working Venezuelans need. It's a new money, or as I like to say, a revamp of their current monetary system to back to something that is solid and can't be printed. So here's a picture right here of some exchange here. We got a handful of 50s and a guy calculating, trying to, I guess, compute how much he's willing to exchange for that. And so to read on a little bit, it says, destroying a currency in less than a decade is no small task. And yet that is exactly what happened, what has done. A 100 bolivar note, the one above me, the largest denomination in circulation before the new notes arrived last month, could be used to purchase more than 50 liters of milk in 2008. So one of these 100 bolivar notes could have gotten you 50 liters of milk. So if you're working, every day 9 to 5er, and you get your paycheck and you want to feed your family, you go get some milk. It was worth something. It says today, with black market exchange rates at more than 1,500 bolivars per dollar, it takes roughly 18 of those notes to buy a single liter. So, just do the math right there. You could buy 50 liters with one, was it that 9 years ago? And today, you can only get 1 liter, and you need 18 of those. So, little monetary understanding right there. It says the new 500 bolivar notes will not even buy a cup of coffee in Caracas. So now we have a 500 bolivar note. You can't even buy a cup of coffee. Indeed, the value of notes in circulation is so low that shopkeepers weigh out piles of cash rather than just trying to count it. Yeah, I'm going to stop right there. I'll let you read the rest if you're interested. Definitely, it's a lot of detailed information there that, you may not hear, you will not hear in mainstream news. Next article here. From Time World, it shows a 500 bolivar note. It says, crisis hit Venezuela introduces 3 new banknotes in response to hyperinflation. And so just for those that may not be familiar with hyperinflation is when the cost of living in goods and services exceeds a certain number, and it actually exponentially increases within a short period of time, such as a couple weeks or a month, to where prices just triple, quadruple, and just overnight, boom, 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 to where it just takes off to the roof. Hyperinflation. It says the Venezuelan government has issued 3 new banknotes in response to the country's hyperinflation crisis. So the Times World is describing what's going on now currently in Venezuela as a hyperinflation crisis, which has left citizens carrying wads of cash to pay off basic essentials. The new denominations range from 500 to 2,000 bolivars in value and will supersede the 100 bolivar note, currently worth about 3 cents. So, as of right now, if someone would be willing to exchange one of these 100 bolivar notes from you, they would only give you, it'd only be worth to me as an American citizen 3 cents. I think it's more of the same. A Caracas resident queuing outside a bank told the BBC on Monday, effectively what we are doing is putting more money on the street, attracting more inflation. It says Venezuela is suffering from the worst economic crisis in modern history. So let me repeat that. Venezuela is suffering from the worst economic crisis in modern history. The worst economic crisis in modern history. And it's something that majority of, my viewers perhaps may not even have heard about in the past up until this point, probably, or just recently. And so imagine all those that are affected by this within that country of, I think it's 50 million, 40 million or something like that. But imagine how their lives are impacted by this worst crisis in history of the paper, everything they've saved, everything they've invested. We have retirement accounts. We have everything that they thought was normal has been turned upside down. And this is, some pretty big news to me. All right, I'll leave it. You can read it the rest if you want, but that's what's happening in Venezuela. And then here's an article from Forex News Now, and it says Latin American economies and currencies to watch in 2017. So this was an article about 2 days ago. And of course, it starts off with Venezuela, and it gives you more of an idea of how just the erosion of their currency has transpired since 2009. So it just shows exchange rate from a dollar to a bolivar, to where it was kind of it was pegged with the dollar for a short period of time, and then slowly over time, they just dropped it and dropped it. And this is what the government is telling them. This is probably this is an official exchange rate chart. We're not to mention what's happening, as they call, on the black market or on the street, where people day to day trying to exchange these things. So it actually paints a pretty good picture. This shows that it's been mild, but in actuality, according to the crisis that they're experiencing, it's been exponential as well. So it just talks about devaluations were made while maintaining a fixed exchange, but that did not stop the parallel market from responding to the actual situation. To date, the official exchange rate is still 10 bolivars for $1, but the implied value in the parallel market is that much higher. In 2013, while the official rate was 6.3 bolivars for $1, the parallel market was 63. So the government is saying that we will do business with others in commercial industry and things like that at 6-1, but then a citizen on the street was doing it at 63-1. So basically, you give me, I'll give you $1, you'll give me 63 bolivars back. And so now, as of to date, that's about 15, maybe 1,600. So for one single Federal Reserve note, somebody will be willing to exchange you, 15, 1,600 bolivars. And so it just gives you more graph here. And this one here is a implied value and the official value. So this is going to show you how distorted the figures are. And so already at the very top, the implied value is already up at 4,500 plus. And so then it goes all the way down, and it shows you what the government is saying that it's, what their figures are. So this is what the government is doing, but this is what the everyday citizens on the street has to face, this hyperinflation of their currency. So just something to think about. And then if you go down further, it talks more about, the crisis there. It gives you more detail if you're interested. And then it talks about Colombia. Colombia, right next door, they're going to have some problems as well with their currency, being that, Venezuela citizens are, causing problems just trying to cross the border to get inside. So, and then of course we have Mexico peso, all the dealings now with our new administration, Trump. So it's a lot of news happening around here in regards to currencies, of which, unless you go looking for it or tune into someone who's sharing it with you, you may not hear about it. So hope this is of value to you. So that's why I encourage those that find it informative to share it so people can become aware of what's happening around them. Here's from BBC News, and it is entitled Paraguay police seize tons of Venezuelan currency. And so this is as of today. It was just fresh off the press for the most part. And off rip, you see a picture here of just bags. It says 25 tons of bolivar notes in the house in northern city of Salto de Guara, 250 miles from the capital. So someone's been collecting and stashing, boatloads of Venezuelan bolivar notes, assuming that they've, just basically exchanged, maybe pennies on a dollar in exchange, and the probability of them themselves taking them to Venezuela and then exchanging them probably at a more favorable note, favorable exchange rate down the line. So, without really going into much detail, just to go show you, just plays into the idea of how the currency is failing, to where people are, collecting and hoarding them for probably a more favorable exchange rate with the government down the line. So, a couple more pictures here. But this is what's happening in the news. This is what's happening in Venezuela, a country not too far from here. It's just south of our borders here. But yet, a small country. But, the story to me is very heartfelt, because they're everyday people like me, like you and I. And they are experiencing some things that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemies. It's a situation where the government is not really doing a good job of leading. And they're just basically abusing and taking advantage of their privilege to serve and protect their citizens. So this is definitely a story that I believe is worth sharing with others. I would love to hear your thoughts below on this story. This is definitely something that, hopefully will get better. But in my opinion, it's just one story of many that's happening around the globe, which is going to make 2017 a year like no other when it comes to stories such as this, dealing with currencies and just the livelihoods and cost of living for ordinary people. So once again, just sharing some news with you. Hope you enjoyed it. Click subscribe if you're new to RTD. Looking forward to bringing you more interviews and more monetary news updates. And as well, if you're new to RTD, visit the RTD University page where I share my interviews with various guests on the subject of monetary policy, fiscal policy, and things that's relevant to you and I. So once again, enjoy your day. Thanks.